Welcome to the FF Face-Off, where fantasy football is debated.
What is going on, everybody? We are live here on Face Off. Super excited. We've got a mock draft, Tyler. We've got one more spot in here, so we'll get this filled up. How you doing today, man?
Good man, good man. I'm good to be here. Try to get some redraft practice in. I'm actually at the 101 this time. I've been kind of in the middle to the back half, so I'm excited to see what the turn looks like.
Yeah. We've got, like I said, one more spot to fill, and we'll get this put up on screen. We've got Zach, who's in the comments. Appreciate you being here, Zach. It's fast approaching draft season, Tyler. I mean, we've got our first full week of preseason games, so we've got a ton of stuff to talk about as we work through training camp. We are in full swing on our end of everything we've got to offer for your fantasy drafts. I know we've talked about it before, and I'm going to plug it in right now. We have our free Discord that's out there. You can jump in, join our chats. This is where our drafts got posted first. Also have the ability to message us, chat with us, and we have 2 premium tiers which contain all of our rankings for both dynasty and redraft. Tons of content in there, so super excited to get those rolling. But Tyler, you ready to get this draft started?
Let's do it, man. I'm excited. We've rolled around. It's time for the season to start. I think we're closing. This is definitely the first week of preseason. Action starting tomorrow on Thursday. So I'm ready, man. This is going to be some good practice that we got to get some reps going, like we haven't been all off season. But as we get through training camp news and contract signings, shout out to Kyron. This kind of gives us a good picture of what we're going to look at through the year. So I'm excited to get started. Let's see how this shakes out here. Like I said earlier, I'm the 101. I think really and truthfully, there's probably about 2 picks that you're going to make here, maybe 3 if you are like Pete and probably Hoff and you're trying to take Christian McCaffrey. I don't think that's happening here. I really believe it's down to in between 2 people, and I believe that is Jamar Chase and Bijan Robinson. I like the depth at wide receiver a little bit more than I do at running back in these drafts as we go through, especially at the turn. So with that being said, my first pick off the board is going to be Jamar Chase.
Hey, I don't blame you. I think Chase is one of those players where he's just different than most other people in the game. He's going to score his points. I mean, if we go back and kind of look and see what he did this past season, he was fantastic. I mean, 175 targets with 127 catches for 1,700 yards and 17 touchdowns. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Um, you know, can Chase repeat it? I think he can. I mean, he's one of those guys you're not going to have to worry about it. Then we see Gibbs and Bijan go after that, followed by Lamb. So not too out of the ordinary here. I mean, I guess you could say Saquon is falling, but I can't imagine he's going to fall much further than that.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised of Gibbs going over Bijan there. Usually, Bijan is your chalk wide running back off the board. Your running back 1 there. So I find that really interesting. I get the hype though. I understand there. You and Coach make fun of me sometimes for my love of Jahmyr Gibbs. Hey, it is what it is. You like who you like. And then after those 2 go off, we've got CD, and then Malik Neighbors comes off the board, bypassing Justin Jefferson, who goes here at the 106. So talk to me, Matt. I know you're a big Neighbors fan. Have you seen enough that you're taking him over Jefferson and behind CD? Like, how does that pick look to you?
I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's just who you necessarily believe in. I'm a huge proponent of Neighbors. Spoiler alert, Neighbors is my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. I know some people are upset with that in our group. It's spread across Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I think I'm the only one with Neighbors. There might be one other person out there with Neighbors, but we're kind of splitting hairs. So I do like what Jefferson brings to the table. I mean, he is consistent. He is steady as a rock. We saw him do it with Sam Darnold. And in my personal opinion, I have absolutely no fears about him playing with JJ McCarthy. I think he'll be just fine. I mean, we just rattled off Jamar Chase's numbers. If we look at Justin Jefferson's, they're not that far off. I mean, it's a little bit fewer touchdowns, but in the grand scheme of things, he's a fantastic player. I think I would go Jefferson over Neighbors, but if we're talking dynasty, I'm the absolute other way. But that does bring me to the end of the first round here, where we get Devon Achane, Saquon Barkley, Ashton Genty, followed by Nico Collins and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I'm going to do something that I've already done before on stream, and I hate to do the same thing again, but I'm going to take Derrick Henry, and I'm going to follow that up, and I'm going to take someone that I think is going to sneak into the top 5 wide receivers this year, and that's Drake London. I absolutely love where he's at right now. I understand Puka Nacua was available right there. I'm not too far off from saying I could have taken Christian McCaffrey right there, but I do like to leave the turn right here with a elite running back and an elite wide receiver, just because the fall off can be pretty drastic there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think really and truthfully, you're probably going to end up with a pretty well-rounded roster if you kind of split that first and second round pick. When you start pigeonholing yourself and you take 2 running backs or 2 wide receivers right out of the gate, it can work out, but the board has to fall perfectly for you. And a lot of times that's kind of hard to do. So I do like, splitting the load there. Christian McCaffrey doesn't last too long after you had contemplated taking him there. He goes at the 203, which I think risk baked in. I think it's probably a good shot, especially, the first round's a little rich for me personally, just having the injury history, but we've all seen it. We know how Christian McCaffrey plays when he's healthy, and he could easily be that person, this year that if you have him in the second round, he's your league winner just based off of that.
Yeah, CMC was the guy we talked about today in our group text with the face-off crew is, what are you doing with him? And I responded with, you close your eyes and you draft him. I mean, he's that good. He's the guy, I can't remember what his average was that year, but it was something like 26 fantasy points or something insane. And that's another level. You don't see a lot of players that can do that. So he's someone that I definitely want on my team. I'm not going to deny that it's not scary, but, sometimes you got to make that pick, because when it pans out, man, it is a great feeling. William Stevenson's in here, and he says that is nasty work on the turn. I agree, my friend. I think this is a pretty good draft group right here, so we appreciate everyone who joined. Again, if you are not in our free Discord, you should be, because this is where the link went first. So these people got the first opportunity to join this draft and work with us. But, Tyler, you're back on the clock here. We see 2 elite tight ends go. Chase Brown goes at the 209, Ladd McConkey to coach at the 210. What are you doing here at the 212?
I want to kind of play with my build here. I know I said I liked the depth of the running backs, but just seeing how many have went off the board already, coupled with the wide receivers, obviously that's kind of normal. But I'm actually going to switch it up here. I kind of briefly mentioned him earlier. My first pick here is actually going to be Kyron Williams, fresh off the contract extension. I think he's just stable at the running back position. And ironically enough, I think I can get some value a little bit later in having Jamar Chase as my wide receiver 1. Kind of going to go a hero wide receiver build here, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to double tap running back and take Bucky Irving here at the start of the third round.
I absolutely love Bucky. There's some people out there with some concern, and I get it. I mean, you lose Liam Cohen, what does this offense turn into? But for me, the tape that Bucky put out there is just, it's one of those things where when you watch it, you can just see he's a different level guy. He's smaller. He's not a huge guy, but he goes out there and he makes people miss all the dang time. And yes, Rachaad White's great out of the backfield, but I don't expect Rachaad White to necessarily be here that much longer. I would expect him to go chase some opportunities and get some more volume, because I think he'll get a chance to be the guy somewhere else. But I think this is Bucky's long-term play here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, we saw Rachaad White there last year, and sure, he kind of snuck in. I think, wasn't he in like the running back 20? He was a running back 2, like late running back 2, high running back 3. I think he finished somewhere in the late 20s, I believe.
Yeah, he was 22.
Yeah, exactly. So, he finished in the top 24 running backs, and everybody was like, "Oh, well, why is nobody talking about him?" And that's because Bucky Irving looked so good. I think his talent is undeniable at this point. And yes, I know Rachaad White obviously had the workload, but look at where Bucky finished last year. Even with Rachaad White as a top 24 back, Bucky still finished as the running back 13, according to Sleeper here. So, I mean, if you're telling me that that workload could increase, I'm willing to take the shot. And I actually found it really interesting right here that Josh Allen finally goes. He's in the middle of the third round here to Roman. I find it interesting. I feel like this trend may start, though. I think the quarterbacks may start to be pushed down as people realize what quarterbacks you are getting later and later. So I'm interested to see, how this redraft season kind of turns around for the quarterbacks here. We've been talking about the quarterback values later. Do you think maybe this is a trend we start seeing, or do you think most people are still going to be taking him in the second round?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's kind of where we get to the point where, what do you do with these guys? I mean, here I am. I'm a Homer Washington fan, and I'm on the clock, and I can take Jaden Daniels, and I want to so bad because I have 0 leagues with any shares of Jaden Daniels. I have not had the opportunity to get him. It's a really tough look right now. Part of me wants to say just take Jaden Daniels and hit Terry McLaurin, even though he's not playing, and just hope it works out. I don't think that's the case here, though, Tyler. I think these quarterbacks are going to continue to get pushed down a little bit. But I think I'm going to, just for the sake of figuring out and testing the theory, I'll take Jaden Daniels right here. We'll figure out if that works out. I think he's someone that has the ability to produce high-end fantasy production again. If Terry McLaurin's not going to play, that kind of hurts things. But if he does play, I think his team is better than it was last year. And there's something to be said for that. But with my next pick, I mean, I've got 2 studs at each position. I think I'm going to go with another one. I'm tempted to take James Cook, but I'm going to go with a safer play. I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara. I think he's just a stable running back who's going to score a ton of fantasy points and be really good in this lineup. I mean, I don't know if I could pick a safer lineup than what I have right here.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like that's just stable. At this point, you're getting the wide receiver 1 for Atlanta and Drake London. You're getting 2 stable veteran running backs, especially Alvin Kamara with that receiving work. Even if the Saints offense isn't great, we've seen years where Kamara thrives just because of the pure PPR volume and him receiving out of the backfield. And so I think that's a great pick here. James Cook does go off the board after him, who is also having his own contract debate with the team, still kind of holding out there. And then Jalen Hurts goes at the 403. I had a draft, I think a few weeks ago now, where I took Joe Burrow in the 4th or 5th round, and I ended up kind of coming back later, and I was like, man, I really wish I would have waited and seen like what my team would have looked like if I had waited till later. So I find it interesting, your strategy here with taking Jaden Daniels there at the end of the 3rd. I really want to see how that works out for you, and just see how this value shakes out. I think we've gotten some news here recently, like I said, with Kyron, the contract disputes between James Cook and Terry and those guys that are probably going to shake up boards a little bit, because all these guys, are high in the leaderboards here. They're all in the 4th round. So their ADP is pretty high. We're going to see what it looks like. Chuba goes off at the 404, Mike Evans, and then Tedero and McMillan. Matt, if you had T-Mac as your wide receiver 1, how comfortable are you?
Not comfortable at all. It's like sitting in an airplane seat is how I would equate that situation. It's not great at all. It could work out. You might get moved up to first class. You might sit in the aisle, but you also could be stuck between 2 big dudes that look like me. So I'm not thrilled with that, but I get it. I mean, he could be good. William Stevenson asked us a question, Tyler, says, does Terry not playing hurt, or does it provide more offensive trickery with Daniels, the running backs, and Debo? I get what you're saying there. I totally agree with that. I think that Debo is a benefactor here if Terry doesn't play. If I'm not mistaken, Pete and I have a pizza bet about Debo Samuel and Devontae Adams with a points per game. So I'm kind of thinking, hey, I'm with you there. If Terry doesn't play, that's only going to help what he can score as the season goes on. But, I think they need Terry out there. I think Terry will be there personally. But at the same time, if he were not to play or if he were to be traded, I do think that would just be a huge uptick for Debo, whether he's in the backfield, being thrown in motion and catching little sweeps, or actually going down the field and making plays. So I expect big things from Debo this year. I think regardless of whether people want to make fun of what he looks like, I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. You're asking about if he's not playing, does it hurt? I think it, like Matt said, it increases Debo's value. I think it hurts everybody else, though. I think it hurts Jaden Daniels' upside. I think it hurts the offense as a whole. We've seen, obviously, Debo produce in multiple ways. That's why I say his value increases, because he can do it out of the backfield, can do it as a receiver. So for him, I would be, my hopes would go up. His value would probably spike a little bit. But personally, like, I think if he's not playing, you're looking at a downgrade there.
Tough situation for you here with Jamar Chase.
That was going to be interesting. Oh man, this is tough. Okay, so at the top of the queue, I just have Joe Burrow there, and that's really hard to not take here. Man, that stack would just be nasty, and I love my stacks. I'm a big proponent of those, especially when you can get the elite ones. Do I do it though? That's the question. You know what? I went into it. I was like, I'm going to try something different. And I know I said I did the Joe Burrow experience one time, but I can't pass it up when I have Jamar Chase on my team. So I'm going to take Joe Burrow here, just kind of complete that stack. And now I have another decision to make here. I feel fine at running back right now. These guys that are here, I would say they're probably in a tier above. The next guys, they're probably the next two. But I also feel like the receivers are kind of dwindling down a little bit. I mean, there's obviously still value here. But I think really and truthfully, if I'm looking at it, I still believe that DJ Moore is going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Bears this year. I know not everybody thinks that. I would really like to have Rashee Rice on my team, but we don't know what the suspension holds. So I will go on the safe side, and I'm going to take DJ Moore as my second wide receiver here, and just kind of see how it falls.
I mean, if it's any solace, Chris says you take the stack. So he did what you wanted, Chris. He's a man of the people. You mentioned DJ Moore. Coach just said what's up. So now we get to make fun of Coach because he's not here. Can DJ Moore be the wide receiver 1 for his Chicago Bears? I don't know. I mean, if you talk to any Chicago Bears fan out there, I don't know if you guys have any, you should go check on them because they're stressing out pretty hardcore about Caleb Williams right now. 1 minute Coach is like, I think he's going to be fine. The next minute he's like, maybe Tyson Bagent's that dude. I don't know. So we'll have to figure out. But I do think that Rome is going to have a big uptick this year. I think he's going to be a lot better. Personally, I like him more than I like DJ Moore. Maybe that's partly because you can get DJ Moore, you can get Rome Odunze cheaper. But I also like the upside play of Rome. I mean, a lot of people are going to point to what DJ Moore did back with Justin Fields in Chicago. However long ago that was, a couple years ago, where he was wide receiver 6. I struggle with that because so much of that was where he scored 55 points against my Washington Commanders. And if you average that game to a normal 10-point or 15-point game or even 20-point game, it significantly changes his fantasy finish. So I just don't think that DJ Moore is quite the caliber of player that, people think he might be able to be. I mean, you're getting him in the 5th round, so I'm not going to fault it too much. You're not drafting him to be your wide receiver 1. But, say, for example, if you were the Tet McMillan team and you had Tet and DJ Moore, I would be a little bit scared of that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we do see.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we see Pickens go at the 502, followed by Travion Henderson and Jamison Williams. So we're rolling through the draft. Things are going great so far. Hoff said your draft is legit, Tyler, which means it is certified great. So we appreciate Hoff. Again, if you haven't already, be sure to join our Discord. We've got all sorts of content out there. And then we've got the Patreon also linked up with access to our rankings for both Dynasty and Redraft. You can get Hoff's personal redraft rankings. You can get Pete's personal rankings. We're going to have kicker rankings, DST rankings, all sorts of Dynasty stuff, buy sells that are going to be exclusive on there. So there's a ton of content out there that you can go and get and absorb if you are obsessed with fantasy like we are.
He definitely phrased that last part right. We are definitely obsessed with fantasy football. And that's why we've done what we've done. We've created the Discord server for people, like-minded people, like those of you watching, it's those in the draft here with us. You know, we just love fantasy football, so it's a good community that we're trying to grow. We're trying to have like-minded folks in there that are really just going to sit there and chat with us about football any time of the year. So come be a part of that. The board is rolling here. You finally had Rasheed Rice go off at the 505, Xavier Worthy right behind him, and then Calvin Ridley to the Ted McMillan team there, Matt. Does that make you feel a little bit better after all the camp news?
No, it doesn't make me feel better because I got sniped really more than anything. That was my next pick was Calvin Ridley. Yeah. He is one of my favorite buys right now, especially in Dynasty because he's so cheap. Like people just don't care for whatever reason. So great pick by Jerome in there. I'm just giving you some grief because I'm jealous.
No, I mean it's definitely a good pick. I think, like you said, his value is so low. I think everybody last year, you know, with the whole oh Lord, I can't even think of his name now. We've gotten that far.
Will Levis.
Will Levis. I knew his name was Will, and I kept wanting to say Will Howard. I knew that wasn't right though. But with Will Levis, that whole experience, I think it kind of turned people off from Calvin Ridley, and then they had Malik Willis too. You know, it's just the whole thing. I think Calvin Ridley will have a bounce back year with Cam Ward there. I really do believe in Cam Ward as a quarterback. So it would have been some good value had he fell to you. But we did have David Montgomery, RJ Harvey, who is apparently the running back 5 on the depth chart, by the way. Shout out to Sean Payton. And then James Conner and Devonta Smith. So you are back on the clock here at the end of the 5th. Where are you going, my friend?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to surprise a lot of people here, and this is just simply based on my conviction. And I'm going to take Travis Hunter. Like I'm locked in. I'm ready. I'm ready to be hurt, but I don't think I'm going to be. I think it's going to work out. You know, I preached it all off season when I was screaming he's the 102 for me. I'm standing by it. You know, a lot of people are saying, well, he's going to be a corner first, but I thought that his receiver skills were better. I think the Jags need a receiver. Obviously, he's going to play some defense. Everything points to he's going to play a ton of offensive snaps and be worked in on the defense. So I really like what I can get from Travis Hunter there. Possibly being my wide receiver 2. Since I have 2 stable running backs, I'm going to double up here at wide receiver, and I'm going to go with Zay Flowers. I think that's another guy who I think has got some room to grow, get a little bit better. I mean, if we go back and look last year, he finishes wide receiver 25, 74 catches for just over 1,000 yards, only 4 touchdowns. That's the important part. Lamar threw for 40 touchdowns last year, and Zay Flowers only caught 4 of them. So that's kind of the shocking little bit for me. So I could definitely see a positive uptick in that number for him. So I love his ability to be the wide receiver 1 there in Baltimore and kind of sneak in as a wide receiver 2 overall in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, and we all know that touchdowns are a very volatile stat. They change from year to year. They're not very sticky, you know, like we say. Whereas like your involvement in the offense is really kind of predictable, right? Obviously you have rookies and stuff that change kind of landscapes of teams, but most of the time your veterans, they kind of stay in the same role unless they, you know, level up and come out next year. And I think Zay Flowers could do that. We've talked about it, you know, who was kind of weirdly valuable last year in terms of for fantasy production, but didn't have the actual value tied in Dynasty, and that was Rashad Bateman. And guess why? Because he caught so many touchdowns. If he regresses on those and Zay Flowers catches a few more, you're probably looking at a completely different story. So I like the pick there. You've got Caleb Johnson, the rookie running back from Pittsburgh there that goes behind you. Joe Mixon, Jalen Waddle, Adunze finally goes in the 6th round as well. Jerry Jeudy, and then Chris Olave here in the middle. So far, Matt, we see a lot of wide receivers off the board. Bo Nix goes off as well. So is this kind of what you would expect here other than the Bo Nix pick? That kind of shocks me a little bit there. But would you expect to see kind of this mix of this many wide receivers coming off the board so quickly?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it makes sense. There's a lot of question marks swirling around at the running back position. I mean, if we kind of step back and, you know, when we kicked off the offseason post-draft coming into training camp, big question is, well, what about Najee Harris and Amari Hampton? Who's going to lead that backfield? There were some Breece Hall question marks. James Cook wants a contract. All those things are kind of fading off a little bit. And now we're hitting the point of those sub-tier or lower tier running backs where we've got, Pacheco looks healthy. He's starting to talk about, well, what can he do? We've got the split of what's going to happen in Minnesota between Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. Is that going to be a true 50-50 like they're kind of alluding to? Chicago is a whole nother cluster. Washington, we could talk about that with Krosky Merritt getting first-team snaps. Kyle Monangai has first-team snaps. And then we have the New York Giants with Tracy and Scadaboo. Like, there's lots of question marks to kind of go through. But I do think that the running back position will sort itself out a little bit more as we approach the actual kickoff of the season. But do have to say, we've got a sleaze raid going on right now, Tyler. So we appreciate that. Pete, if you are in here, I could use your help, and you can kind of help us out here and get this raid part fixed. Don't have complete access to everything on here, but we appreciate it, Sleaze. Thanks for jumping in.
Absolutely.
But go ahead, Tyler. You're back on the clock.
Yeah, I'm back on the clock here. Kind of caught me off guard there. Pacheco goes right before me. Not that I was taking him anyway. I'm actually going to turn around. I don't like to take onesies a lot back to back in the first few rounds. But I'm going to take the tight end that I'm convicted in. We've traded for him in Dynasty this year, where we're going to go try to contend in a league. So I'm going to take Sam Laporta. I think he's just going to fit right back into the offense. I don't think the offense is going to change that much. Maybe they're not as explosive. They don't have some of the trick plays that Ben Johnson would have drawn up, but I think they're going to be a stable offense regardless. And Jared Goff loves him some Laporta in the red zone, so I will take that shot. Now that we're looking here, I've got my two onesie positions. At running back, I could take another one here in either Aaron Jones or DeAndre Swift or Tony Pollard, but really none of those guys are that interesting to me. So if I'm looking at the wide receiver position, I'm really looking at kind of some upside swings. And honestly, the one name that stands out to me the most, he's listed as questionable currently, but I think he's going to be the wide receiver one for the team. So I'm going to go down in ADP a little bit, and I'm actually going to take Khalil Shakir here. I know that
concerns about the injury.
Yes and no. It is somewhat concerning, but we're also talking about preseason. It's a high ankle sprain. He could be week to week. You probably didn't expect him to play much until the later preseason games anyway. So for me, I'm not super worried about it. Here's my thing, the way I look at it. I could either take Shakir and have him recover throughout the preseason when we're not playing him anyway, or I could be taking, Jordan Addison, who we know is going to miss the first 3 games. So I at least have the opportunity for production here with him. He's not going to miss anything as far as a legal battle going. And then my other choice there would have probably been Chris Godwin, but he's also dealing with an injury too, and coming back from last year where he already had another injury. So if I'm taking the injury risk, I would at least take Khalil Shakir, who I think he has that chemistry there with Josh Allen already.
Yeah, William Stevenson asked Tyler, why not Pacheco? Pacheco is really one of those players where I don't know what to expect. I think he'll be the guy to lead the backfield in Kansas City. But what we know about them is they do all sorts of ways to score. And, they're going to have some annoying flip to Noah Gray 5 times this upcoming season. And I'm going to have to hear it from coach, all 5 of them. So it's one of those things where he's a little bit of a headache. I do think he can be a better player going forward. The injury kind of did derail him. He came back, didn't really look great, didn't play well, but I do think a lot of that had to do with the injury itself. He's a tough runner. He's physical. I just think he's a little bit capped in what he can offer you. We're talking about a guy who's never had 1,000 yards a season. Now, he didn't necessarily have a ton of opportunity his first year. 2023, he had 205 carries. And that amounted to 935 yards. But I do think he can be a guy that's kind of a lot like Brian Robinson. He is what he is. You're not going to get a ton out of that, but it's something, and that matters a little bit. But we did just get a super chat, Tyler, so let's jump to that. And I'm hoping a player falls to me so we can come back and talk about him a little bit. But it's a question from Ace of Spade. Do you guys prefer Mike Evans or Devontae Adams? Talk about a question which you could have asked this like 5 years ago, and it would have been like, oh man, a heated debate. And now we're talking about a couple 30-year-old guys battling for, hopefully another 1,000-yard season. For me, I think I'm going to go with Devontae Adams, and I wouldn't have expected that. I just think that the offense there presents a better opportunity for him. That's not to say that Baker's not going to repeat, but I do think that Ibuka is going to come on and play a little bit better as the season goes on. Godwin should be coming back, and I just really like what should be a healthy Stafford if he plays. I mean, if he doesn't play, then I would be switching over to Mike Evans as fast as I can. But I just like what Devontae Adams could offer in this Rams offense, just because we know what a pairing with Sean McVay looks like.
Yeah, and I think probably for the reason that you just alluded to with Stafford's health, I'm not super concerned currently, but I think just that kind of mystery box of we don't know what it's going to be, that would make me lean towards Mike Evans because I know what Baker is. Sure, he may not throw for another 41 touchdowns. I believe he threw 4 last year, but I do know one thing, and this team is going to try to get Mike Evans to 1,000 yards again. They did it last year. They're going to continue to do it. So for me, I know he's going to get the targets. He's going to try to get the receiving yards as long as he stays healthy. And I think they're probably both in the same tier for me. I'm not 100% sure of that. I think they are in my rankings. But to me, I really don't see much of a difference between the two. So give me the guy that actually has the healthy quarterback right now who is actually playing. And, yeah, I do like, Ibuka and them being there. Just because I like them coming out of college, and then Chris Godwin obviously coming back like I mentioned before, but I don't think that's going to impact him as much as maybe a quarterback injury might with Devontae Adams there.
Totally agree. We appreciate the super chat, Ace. Thank you for that. If you got any questions, please let us know. The guy I wanted fell to me, and that's Jordan Addison. You mentioned the suspension. Yep. I'm not really worried about it. He's going to miss those 3 games. He's going to come back. He should be healthy, ready to roll. He's looked really, really good in training camp. So I'm excited to get that share of Jordan Addison. So now I've got a wide receiver room that, at the start of the year, it might be a little sketchy, but long-term, I feel really, really good about it. And now I think I'm going to try and find a guy to bolster up this running back room. And let's go with Tony Pollard. I think that's another pick that's kind of safe. He kind of falls in that same boat of Brian Robinson, where he just is what he is. I was hoping I might be able to get Aaron Jones, and I don't necessarily have that conviction on Jordan Mason, so I'm not ready to say that I'm going to go that route.
Yeah, I get it there. Going back to, you mentioned Brian Robinson again, and we were talking about him with Pacheco. Just want to throw my 2 cents in there. The main reason why I wasn't taking Pacheco is because of the running backs I already have on my team. I feel like I can find some depth. That's about the equivalent of Pacheco here later. So that was my main reason for that. I do think getting your running back depth there with Tony Pollard is kind of the same deal there. You're insulating your running back room a little bit. And I do like the Jordan Addison pick. It wasn't that I was super concerned about the suspension, but if I'm looking and DJ Moore doesn't start out hot, I'm going to need another receiver who is possibly going to produce for me. And knowing that I'm going to miss Jordan Addison for the first 3 games of the season, at least I have the chance for Shakir to play. We do have Juwan Jennings finally go off at the 8:03 here, and then Baker and Matthew Golden, who I know you're high on. Do you think that he's being drafted too low for the hype coming in?
For Matthew Golden?
Mm-hmm.
Redraft here where he goes to 805. Is that too high? I don't necessarily think so. I would probably want Matthew Golden over Juwan Jennings, but most of these other guys, I get why you took them. My conviction for Matthew Golden is something that goes back to this offseason. Watching the tape, checking out what he did at Texas, the stats aren't going to back up what the film shows, and that's the main thing. If you go and look at the stats book for him, you're not going to walk away and go, wow, that's a big-time player. He's the opposite of Emeka Egbuka, where that stat sheet is just filled with anything you could want. But when you watch the tape, especially when it got deep into the playoffs, he made big play after big play after big play. Filthy routes, contested catches, spec catches. Like, he does absolutely everything you could want. He's in a wide receiver room with tons of question marks and nothing but wide receiver twos. So I love what he can be. We do have a couple questions in here, Tyler, from Jason and Willie. So let's hit this one from Jason real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Full PPR, 1 QB, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flex, 6 bench. What will be your strategy? I think I speak for both Tyler and I because we did a draft together. What we would typically do is prioritize finding a bell cow running back and a big name wide receiver to start with. Don't necessarily worry about getting those quarterbacks. I mean, you see me here. I took Jaden Daniels at the 312, but at the same time, my team is going to be lacking. I don't have 4 great running backs. I've got 2 good ones and 1 okay one. I've got 3 solid wide receivers and 1 great one. So taking that early quarterback really hurts you. So I would prioritize bolstering those those wide receiver and running back rooms, and then worry about quarterback later because there's going to be tons of guys that are going to fall late into the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick before I pick here, I echo that sentiment 100%. With it being PPR, you're already starting 3 wide receivers and you have 2 flexes. So you got to keep in mind there, you're really wanting to hammer home some of those productive guys, especially later in the drafts, those guys that are going to get a lot of targets. Your running back, if you get the hero RB to start, that's going to get all those targets as well as run the ball, you're going to start out great. And like Matt said, just building out your roster from there, I think that's probably an ideal start for you. So I'm going to go back to the well here at wide receiver. I think he would probably be my next one off the board in terms of some value. And I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp here. I'm not a big believer in Sam Darnold, but I do believe that he can get open. I've watched it too many years now with Stafford throwing him the ball. So I think he's going to at least give himself the opportunity to be open. Now, whether or not Sam Darnold can pull the miracle that he did last year again, we will see. But that leaves me still on the clock here. And I really want to go at the running back room. Oh man, it's such a hairy pick for me here. But there is one guy who is a tier above all. And we sat here and I said, I'm not really worried about Jordan Addison's suspension, even though we've already seen it. We don't even know what the suspension is for this guy. But I think when he plays, however much he plays, I've already got my 2 starters. I'm going to take Quinshon Judkins here. I think he's fallen far enough. So for him to be my running back 3 and may not even have to take him now or play him right away, I'll take him and just let him sit on my bench until he is back in the league.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one where it could absolutely pay off, or it could be one that you don't even get to use. So, and someone's going to take that risk, and there's a chance it works. So I can't fault the strategy there, Tyler. If it hits for you, and we know he's going to play, then it's probably going to pay off in value for you there. But going back, you said one thing, Tyler, and I want to hit on that for Jason's question about what he should do for his strategy with this league. Seeing that it's 3 wide receivers and 2 flexes, you're more likely than not going to need more wide receivers than any other position. I mean, William already said, Jason, I'm going hero RB. Great strategy there too. If you could walk away with a guy like Derrick Henry, or even a build like Tyler's here where it's Kyron Williams and Bucky Irving, those are 2 hero running backs you can use, and then you just hammer wide receiver after that all over the place. Draft one of those quarterbacks later on. But we get a question from KJ Frederick, Tyler, and it says, full PPR redraft league, who would you rather have, Purdy or Dak? For me, this is as easy as it could ever possibly. It's Dak. What we know about Dak, and we've talked about this a couple times on our shows, Tyler, is when Dak plays 17 games, he is really dang good for fantasy. I mean, if you step back and look, QB3, QB8, QB2, QB10, QB7, those are the years where he played most of the season or the entire season. It's just when the injury derails him. He's going to score more points. He gets more weapons with the addition of Pickens. So I really like what he can do in this Dallas offense, even though I hate Dallas with everything in me.
Yeah, you've always been a big Dak guy, even though you don't like the Cowboys.
They don't respect him. They just don't.
They don't. No, they really don't. And, like we said, when he's injured, obviously he's not going to be performing well. But when he is not, he is up there. He's, like you said, I think his lowest finish was the top 10. He's still finishing at 10. when he's not injured, and he even had 2s and 3s in there. So for me, being able to get that in the 9th round, we've talked about those late quarterbacks that have that upside, and I truly think with the lack of the running game that the Cowboys are going to have this year, because they got rid of Rico. Yes, they paid Javonte, and they've got some rookies there, but I think their offensive line got worse. I truly think that overall, especially if Micah Parsons, which that's a whole nother discussion to be having, I don't think he's going anywhere. But if he did, boy, are you talking about the Cincinnati Bengals 2.0, because it is going to be a defensive shootout to the point of where – or an offensive shootout, sorry, where their defense isn't going to be as good because Micah's not on the field. So to me, I'd take the shot with Dak there. Purdy too, you got to go back and look. All of his weapons are getting hurt currently. It's the only healthy one Pearsall right now, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
and I mean, the other thing to consider too is William Stevenson says with Dak, can he suggest an insurance policy? I don't think you're wrong there, but the one thing we've noticed with doing all these redraft mock drafts is there's going to be big name quarterbacks on the waiver. I mean, we're seeing Trevor Lawrence go undrafted. We're seeing Justin Herbert go in the 10th round. I mean, Herbert hasn't even been picked yet. Other names that are out there: Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Justin Fields. Like, we're in the era of the rushing quarterback provides so much stability. Fields hasn't been drafted yet. So there are names out there that are going to be on waivers where you can pick up an insurance policy if you need it, or if you really are concerned about that right now, you can get someone to bolster that room.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you do draft Dak, if you wanted to draft an insurance policy, I mean, like Matt said, there's so many options you can go with. Sure, your Herberts and Kylers are probably going to get taken, but you're still going to have Trevor Lawrence. You're still going to have Justin Fields. If Justin Fields gets drafted in your league, they're either a Jets fan or probably an Ohio State fan from college. So I think truly, there's going to be some guys there left on the waiver wire that you could pick up and start if you were really in a pinch. But I think Dak is a safe bet, in terms of between those two guys.
Yeah, and here I'm going to take, with my last pick of the 9th round, I'm going to take Javonte Williams, the guy who could be the RB1 in Dallas. It's not a lock, but it's at least a guy who's going to get some workload and has the opportunity to have some better weeks. A lot of people are saying he looks healthy for the first time. It could be a nice change of scenery for him to really step into a better role. So I will take the shot on that. And then with my next pick, I'm debating making tight end, but I'm going to punt the position. Most of the teams already have a tight end. There's a couple guys that I like, so I'm going to see if one of them can make their way back to me. Looking at the board, seeing who's available. Jaylen Warren's out there. Brent Ayuk still hurt. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take my tight end. I'm going to go with Tucker Kraft. That's a player I really like. I think he's a guy that can sneak into the top 6 tight ends, just based on his pure athleticism and ability to make some people miss.
Yeah, absolutely. You had kind of mentioned it there. I was going to look up the Ayuk news. There's still no timetable for his return as of a week ago, which is wild to me. Like I said, everybody's gone down at this point. It feels like Ricky Pearsall is the last man standing there. So if he was healthy, Ayuk would be off the board by now. But it is what it is. You kind of play the board how it falls. I did like your pick there of Kraft. I know you're a big Kraft fan. I would have taken him, or probably Tyler Warren, who just went here in the 10th round. That would probably be my pick there for you if I had to guess. But then we've got William here. If you draft Dak, start talking shit to your resident Cowboys fans right away, even when it's looking too good to be true. Absolutely.
Honestly, this strategy works really, really well for me. I'm out in Oklahoma, so I'm surrounded by Cowboys fans. Over half of my redraft league is Cowboys fans, so I usually end up with one Cowboy that I trade midseason just because they fall in love with them. They can't help it. Dallas fans are Dallas fans. They're all the same. Respectfully, I'm sorry, but it's true.
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked about that before. My pick did get taken. I didn't see it until now because I had my screen minimized. But I was really hoping Jaylen Warren made it back to me. Not that I'm a big believer, but we do know that it's good value. I mean, yes, they have Caleb Johnson there, but we know, that Arthur Smith likes to use multiple running backs. We saw it when he was in Atlanta with Bijan and Tyler Algier. And I still think, they didn't want to give the full reins to Jalen Warren, but that doesn't mean he's not going to be used. So that was going to be my pick if he made it all the way back to me, but unfortunately he did not. And then we also have Michael Pittman go off the board, which I am the residence Colts fan. Probably this year I would prefer Josh Downs, but I do think a lot of people sleep on Michael Pittman too. So I would have probably ended up taking him if he fell to me as well. So this is going to make my pick here at the turn a little more difficult, but we will see where it falls whenever it gets to me.
Yeah. Well, we're approaching your pick. We've got 15 people watching, so we appreciate everyone who's tuning in. If you haven't already, please be sure to like the stream. We've got a couple more rounds. If you've got questions, throw them in the chat, and we are happy to answer those for you guys. We appreciate everyone being in here. We appreciate the people that joined the draft. Again, we put it out there first in our Discord, so if you haven't already, the link is in the comments. Go join our Discord. We have a free tier where you can just get in there, interact with us in the community. We also have 2 paid tiers, which give you the opportunity to get access to our redraft rankings, dynasty rankings, team reviews, trade reviews, all sorts of things. Tyler gets sniped with Trey Harris. As Hoff says, be sure to like and subscribe. It greatly helps us. We appreciate everyone who's going to, do that for us and be here with us. But Tyler, you are on the clock. Let the people know what you're doing.
Oh man, that Trey Harris pick, I was just going to soak it up and just be so happy. But unfortunately, I can't do that. So here we go. I will take another. I like later in drafts, I like taking shot on rookie guys. There are 2 rookies here that I really like in both Luther Burden and Kyle Williams. And to me right now, I know Burden's probably kind of buried on the depth chart. He's looked good, but I think he is kind of buried there. And with me having DJ Moore, I want to kind of diversify that a little bit. So I'll take the upside shot on a Kyle Williams pick here just to kind of see this late in the draft. You're just kind of hoping somebody sticks at this point. And then I'm actually going to turn around. I'm going to go running back here. Not that I necessarily think this is the best strategy. You have Ramondre there. I think Trayvon's going to beat him out pretty quickly. So I'm not going to take him. I'm not going to take the handcuff of Rachaad White. I could go Nick Chubb with Mixon being hurt, or Tootin if you believed in him. But I'm really actually just going to go – I'm going to fall down the board a little bit here. And really and truthfully, the only reason I take it is because I know he's been there. I know he knows the offense. And I don't want to take another shot on a rookie whenever I already have the other rookie on the team anyway. And I'm just going to take Jerome Ford. It's a running back that I can use later if I needed to. He could have probably made it back to me, but either way, I'll take the shot here. Just trying to lock up that 3rd running back spot for me.
Yeah, I get it. You named off several players that I'm interested here in the 11th round. Again, going back to the quarterback position, Kyler Murray goes in the 11th round. That's a quarterback we could absolutely see finish top 5, top 6 if all things go according. Zach asked us if we're going to go through teams. Of course we can. So if you're in here, let us know what team you are, and we are happy to give you our thoughts. And we'll go through our favorite teams, and we won't pick our own, even though we want to. And then KJ asked Tyler news about Arroyo. Can y'all see him cracking a top 12 spot this year at the tight end position? It's either fortunate or unfortunate for you that Coach is not in here with us as our resident Miami fan who has been preaching Arroyo for a long time. I think it's absolutely possible. Let's not mistake the fact, yes, the Seahawks moved on from Noah Fant. A lot of that could have been money based where they, had a good cap hit if they got rid of him now, or it's because Elijah Arroyo. And I think it's a little bit of both. Arroyo is really, really athletic. He's not the best blocker in the world, but he is not afraid to put his hand in the dirt. And he's a dog. Like if you go back and watch the tape, he just gets after it all the time. So I like Arroyo. I think his situation is nice. It's JSN and then a lot of question marks. We talked about Cooper Kupp. Can he still play? He's getting older. New offense. Is Sam Darnold going to repeat? But what we know is these tight ends a lot of times settle as being a quarterback's little dink and dunk guy. And Elijah Arroyo has elite athleticism. If you go back and look, he has a play against Georgia Tech where he hits like 24 miles per hour, and he's a tight end. He's one of the fastest players, plays in the league last year in NCAA. So I like the landing spot. I like the fit. I think good things are ahead for him there in Seattle.
Yeah, I like him a lot there too. And like you said, Noah Fant's gone. You really hit the nail on the head when you said JSN. It's basically JSN and nobody else, Um, so he could definitely crack into the top 12. The bad part about it is one, he still has Sam Darnold as his quarterback, which we have to see how that's going to play out. But two, if you're looking at if your floor is the top 12 tight end, most of the time after you get outside that top tier of tight end, really the rest of the guys don't really make much of a difference.
Yeah.
So if he makes it in the top 12, that's great for him. That's a great outlook for his future. But really and truthfully, you're probably looking in the top 5 or 6 that you really want to hit to have some sizable fantasy output there. Did want to point out too, also the Kyler Murray team here in the 11th round. He did stack that with Trey McBride, which I like that a lot. So that is huge. Burden went, Pop Douglas, Brandon Ayuk finally goes, Jake Ferguson, Christian Kirk, Cedric Tillman, Dante Thornton, Wan'Dale Robinson, and then Jared Goff. Pete brings up Christian Kirk looking good in camp. If he was healthy, he may finish in the top 30. It is an upside shot. You could take the chance there if you really believe in him. I've seen enough Christian Kirk to probably just be like, I'm good. I think they have enough probably younger talent there in Houston to kind of beat him out. And then William brought up here, he said, JSN and nobody, are we really hating on Kupp that far? Yes and no. I think it's more of the age thing. I do believe in Kupp still, like as a player. My biggest quarrel, like I've said time and time again, is just Sam Darnold. I believe he can feed it to one person. I just don't know that he can spread the ball around like, maybe he did last year, if you even consider that. But to me, I think yes, he probably is falling a little further than we think, but it's a new landscape, right? Matt, what do you think? Do you think Kupp is falling too far at this point?
I don't think he's falling too far. I mean, he's in the 8th. Again, we're talking about a 32-year-old wide receiver coming off back-to-back years where he only played 12 games, finishes wide receiver 38, 40. I think he's going to be fine. He's going to be what he is. I mean, it's kind of like that Tyler Lockett transition where these older guys just continue to make plays, but they're just not the same player that they were. And that's okay. We shouldn't say nobody because Kupp is good. Kupp is going to be serviceable out there for several weeks. It's a lot like, Adam Thielen in Carolina. There are weeks where you're going to say, dang, he looks good. He's making plays. Keenan Allen last year had some moments where he looked really great, but there's still guys that are probably going to miss some time or not necessarily amount to game-breaking players. Their ceiling might be a little bit capped. But I think that there's certainly something we can get. And then, I close out my draft here, Tyler. I take Nick Chubb in the 11th round. I think he's someone that has the opportunity to get some touchdowns, especially if Joe Mixon seems to miss some more time. And then finally, I'm falling into the Hard Knocks hype. I don't know if you guys watched Hard Knocks last night. It was episode 1. Josh Allen said a ton of positive things about Josh Palmer. They had some moments where they were working together off to the side, working on some end zone fades. I don't know. Could be nothing. But what we do know, Shakir's hurt. I'm not the biggest Coleman believer. I don't care too much about Dalton Kincaid. Someone's going to catch the ball. I don't know who's going to be. Is James Cook going to hold out? Is something going to happen there? I don't know. But Joshua Palmer is interesting to me. It's my last pick. I could cut him in the first week and figure out something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, too, to kind of remember when you're going through these drafts, guys, is these last few picks, these are guys that you should be able to cut ties with pretty easily. Obviously you picked them for a reason. You had some sort of belief that they could be good, but if they're not good, just cut them. At this point, that's really what you're looking for. We're back to me just picking the last pick in the draft. And I feel okay about my wide receivers for now. I think, if anything, actually, no, I lied. Adam Thielen is still there. He had a few good receiving weeks you were just talking about. I'd take him here just to kind of fill out my roster. If I hadn't went there, I was actually going to go probably with a running back in either Tootin or either some Ray Davis or something like that. One of the backup guys that has gotten some love from the team. Could have even taken your boy Ja'Cory Cross-Key Merritt from Washington, who's been standing out in camp, but
Ja'Cory is my guy, man. I don't think he's someone that I'll probably draft and redraft, just given the fact that he's behind Eckler and B Rob. But he could be the guy that we dump a ton of fab on in week 1, week 2, week 3. All the guys here at Face Off, they're probably sick and tired of hearing me talk about him every single show, every single day, because I pretty much just wake up and tell them that's what they need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Obviously, what was the one from a few years ago? Was that Jarrett Patterson in the playoffs?
Jarrett Patterson had a run. Chris Rodriguez has had a run.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of players, Fat Rob Kelly, if we want to go way back, that have had some runs in Washington. It's been dark days for me as a Washington fan. I haven't had a lot to root for, but I finally do. So it is great to be a part of that. Matt said he enjoyed the mock. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you for tuning in.
Absolutely.
Let's review some of these teams, Tyler. So if you guys were a part of this draft, you want us to review your team, put it in the comment. We are happy to go through all those. But take a second, look at the board here, study it, see if you can find a team that you liked. Speaking of runs, Williams, even I know you got to be careful.
Yeah.
But if I step back and I look at this board, I'm going to start just with Pete because I just want to roast him because he's not in here. Pete, this team is terrible. I don't know what you did. Drake May as your quarterback, man. Cedric Tillman, Rashad White as your last 2 picks. Those are so I saw those coming from a mile away. I love you, Pete. Your team is a solid B-. So get your team up. Chris says that the best team is team 2 and the worst team is team 8, being Pete. Yeah, I'll agree. I haven't even looked at all the teams. Team 8's terrible. But let's take a look at team 2. Tyler, keep studying the board and figuring out who's your favorite team. We've got Gibbs, McBride, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, George Pickens, Pacheco, Dobbins, Reed, Harris, Kyler Murray, and Sampson. Yeah, team 2 has got a ton of star power. The one question you're going to have is, can those running backs hold up with just being Gibbs and Pacheco? That's a great core right there. But it's also banking on Dobbins being the guy there in Denver. And, the depth chart might say that he is right now, but there's a lot to go through there. And, Matt asked us about his team, and he is team 2. So I like the team. I love the start with Gibbs. I also love the stack of McBride and Kyler Murray, like Tyler said during the draft. That's great. The one pick I would maybe change would be the Godwin pick. You've got those 3 big name wide receivers. Maybe I would have gone a guy like Aaron Jones or Etienne, Swift, or B-Rob, any of those guys, just to give you some more stability at the running back position. And then, like you said, that Dobbins pick is kind of the question mark there. It could be really, really good and can pay off. Could end up being nothing if Harvey ends up taking that role and Sean Payton's just trolling everyone. But I like this team.
I do as well. I really like, your starting lineup's going to look pretty good. Like Matt said, the running back depth is probably what's going to be kind of iffy there. That's probably where that Godwin Dobbins pick in between there, you probably could have taken, like you said, an Aaron Jones or something and probably felt a little bit better about it. Even whenever you circle back around, you still got Jaden Reed and Trey Harris. So I like both of those guys as well. But overall, it's a really nice team. I don't have any complaints other than what Matt had said there.
Yeah. Pete says, nice job, Matt. I don't know if that's to my review or Matt's team. I can only assume it's to Matt's team, but I'm going to take it that it's for me. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate your feedback. Team 11 asks what we think they look like there. So let's take a look at Team 11, Tyler. We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown with Brian Thomas, Lamar Jackson, James Cook, Devonta Smith. My word, that's kind of a filthy start right there. Caleb Johnson, Emeka Egbuka, Tracy. I like this team a lot, man. I know at one point in time you hit the auto, and I think that's when you took Jonnu Smith. So probably. I can only imagine you would have had someone else other than Jonnu Smith. And same with the Jared Goff pick. But I really like this team a lot, man. I won't lie.
Yeah, I think if this team had finished out the draft, I think this would have probably been my favorite team. This is the team that I was staring at so intently. I was like, man, this was such a good start. And then even getting Mark Andrews in the 9th round, obviously circling it back around, you don't want to get another tight end there. And you definitely didn't need the second quarterback with Lamar. So if you could have turned around if you would have turned around and maybe, let's see, gotten Jalen Warren there, obviously I wanted him there, but you could have taken him. And, even if you took like a Josh Palmer or just something to kind of flesh out your room a little bit, but I do really like the team. That starting lineup's going to be pretty nasty.
Yeah. Pete says didn't need Jonnu, didn't need Goff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw Pete, but he was autoed for both of those picks. So I don't think it would have happened. But I like it a lot. Scott asked us to go to Team 10. So let's go to Team 10, Tyler.
Let's
take a second here. Nico Collins, Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Hurts, James Conner, Joe Mixon, Pearsall Jennings, Ingram, Warren, Wandale, coach's guy, and Marvin Mims, Pete's guy. So closing out the draft there with two face-off duds. Sorry. Scott adds, he said, let the pain start. I love that. Just accept the moment. And, if you're going to start with the pain, I think drafting Christian McCaffrey at the 203 is exactly that. It is, this might hurt. This might suck. I might be flushing my buy-in down the drain. But if he plays well and he does what he has done in the past and he scores 391 fantasy points, you're going to be just fine, brother. So
yep.
I am totally fine with this start, Nico, Christian McCaffrey. The Tyreek Hill pick, I mean, it's a lot of what you believe in Tyreek Hill. I mean, you look at that box score. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. I won't lie. I'm a little bit scared of him this season. The two question marks, whether Tyreek is going to be able to stay healthy. What does this offense look like? There's a lot to look there, but outside of that pick, the Tyreek pick is the one that I have hesitancy on. Other than that, I think it's a pretty solid team. I mean, doubling up on the San Fran wide receivers, I don't know if I would do that, but I get it.
Yeah, I think honestly, I don't think the team is as bad as you make it out to be. I think where you kind of lost me personally, if you have conviction in Tyreek, by all means, take him. Obviously, if you'd taken somebody like Mike Evans or something like that, we'd have probably liked the team a little bit more just because I think you would you agree, Matt? You'd probably rather have Mike Evans than Tyreek at this point? Or is it still a toss-up? Okay.
No, I would rather have Mike Evans, but it's also cheaper. That's the other aspect
that
I think we have to consider.
True. And so, being able to come back around here, I don't think you did that. I think the main thing is your wide receiver depth really falls off. Like you mainly have 3 startable wide receivers. So that's it. So I would have probably tried to turn around and take some more guys down the road here, maybe a little bit before the 11th and 12th round. But I get it.
I think the one alternative would be what we've talked about several times, Tyler, would be not taking the quarterback. If you subbed out Hurts and he went with Tua and Mike Evans, then we're talking about a pretty serviceable wide receiver room. Or even if you went the other route and you said, okay, well, I'll take Kenneth Walker or Chuba Hubbard, Travion Henderson, one of those guys, just kind of bolster those other rooms. Because again, like if we step back and look at this draft board, Justin Herbert wasn't even drafted. Trevor Lawrence, JJ McCarthy. There's going to be guys that will sneak into the top 12 that weren't drafted. Justin Fields, not drafted.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You get these later round quarterbacks. I mean, this is a good transition actually because Piff asked us to rate his at Team 6 as well. But if you look, he got Brock Purdy in the 12th round. I mean, he waited till the last round of the draft to even get his quarterback, and he's still got one that's considered, pretty great. He did mention in there, he said he had a hard time trying to turn his dynasty brain off. I get it, man. Listen, once you play dynasty and you're in that mindset, it's hard to turn it off. Yeah, it's just
the whole time.
Like, oh, can I get age? Can I get this really young team that's all studs? And then you're like, wait a second, I'm not going to have any of them next year. It doesn't matter.
And I think that's my problem with Tyreek Hill. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like he's pretty old. Like he could be washed here soon. It's like I don't need to think about that. I need to think about right now. And that's so hard, especially when you're like us. And I'm assuming the way Piff is too, of just having a ton of dynasty leagues. It just kind of makes you stop and think.
Absolutely. Overall, his team though, starting out with JJ, I really like that pick. Obviously, he's got I think it's a hamstring injury at this point.
Not worried at all.
I'm not worried about it. Not one bit. Having your 2 starting running backs being Josh Jacobs and Amari Hampton, love that. That'd be great. Getting your quarterback, this is the value that you get by getting your quarterback in the 12th round. You get Cortland Sutton in the 4th. Xavier Worthy, who, if Rashee Rice is out, he looked great in the playoffs last year. He could take over that role. You even get Chris Olave in the 6th and Debo in the 7th, who we were just talking about. If Terry misses, man, like he's shooting up draft boards. So, and you get Keon Coleman in the 9th, who, if him and Josh Allen can, get that mind meld going, you're looking at a great roster here, man. Honestly, this probably, I hate to do this to Coach. I don't want to pump his head up too much. Probably between this team and Coach's team at 3 are probably my 2 favorites, honestly. You've got some solid value waiting to get Brock Purdy here at the end. So kudos to you, Uncle Piff. That would be like Rabbit Dad says here at the very end. If those 2 hit, and Olave and Debo, that team's going to be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's crazy to me seeing Worthy go ahead of Olave. Again, like I almost think if it should be the other way around. I get why people like Worthy. He's fast, he's explosive, but I also have question marks of can he be a guy to carry a workload? But if you're telling me that's your wide receiver 3, but also at the same time, you could absolutely start Debo or Olave and possibly even Coleman ahead of him. And he's just your guy of, I'm swinging for the fences this week. Great matchup, whatever it's going to be. I love that situation. So we've got 2 questions here. And then we've also got Pete who asked us to rate his team. And I think I gave you a B-, Pete, and maybe that was rude, but I'm going to stick by my B-. I think your team is solid. I mean, Saquon at the 108 is a great value. Puka at the 205 is also great value. And I love the Brees pick. I question the Drake May pick. I really do. I'm not sure he's someone that should be drafted in redraft right now. I mean, I get it if you believe in him. Dynasty, I absolutely love his outlook, but I do have question marks of what he can do to really kick off this season. I mean, Demario Douglas seems to be doing really well in camp. Is that something to follow? Maybe. I've also read Kayshon Boutte still looks like the wide receiver 1. And we got Kyle Williams. Lots of question marks there in New England. So I like this team. I think it might just be it's just one of those. It's a steady team. I feel like this is a floor team versus a ceiling team. And that's obviously a good strategy that you can use too.
Yeah. Personally, I think if you change the quarterback, if you take Drake May out and you put Kyler in or Jared Goff or any of these guys here at the end that went after him, I think I would like the team a whole lot more, honestly. I get, Pete says in there, he says he's got him as a top 10 quarterback this year for him to look at his rushing stats from last year. And that's great. I mean, he could definitely step up, but we still just haven't seen it from the Patriots, whereas these guys below him at some point have already proven they can do it. So to me, especially if you're talking about rushing stats, I would probably take Kyler there instead of
exactly
May.
what I was going to say.
And so there's been interviews said where Kyler's been watching Lamar's film and he wants to try to step up his running game this year. And if that's true, Kyler's going to be a value pick in the 11th round, here. So I'm not saying that he's a terrible option, but I think all the reasons you would want a Drake May is probably you could find another quarterback that's going to do it better later than he is.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the questions we've got here. We've got one from Colby a few minutes ago. Said, I had the 10th and 11th pick in my draft today. Neighbors and Collins fell to me, and then I traded Nico Collins and DeAndre Swift for Egbuka and Gibbs. Thoughts? I mean, are we assuming this is redraft, I guess?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm assuming that's what this is. I'm not entirely sure. But if you're telling me I get the package of Neighbors, Gibbs, and Egbuka, I would rather have that than Neighbors, Collins, and Swift.
Yes.
That's where I go.
I agree. Gibbs, there's a reason Gibbs was in consideration for a top 2 pick in this draft versus yes, Nico is great, but he's still going back half of first round, sometimes even in the second round.
And it is redraft, by the way.
Okay. It is redraft. So yeah, I would take that, and Egbuka could, not saying he's going to, so don't hold me to this, but I remember Justin Jefferson's rookie year. I literally drafted him in like the last round or the round before. And within those first few weeks, you saw it take off. Like you saw his ascension start. I'm not saying Igbuka's going to do that, but he's definitely got the production profile to be able to do it. And he, depending on how the injuries fall around his team, he might have the shot.
Yeah. Well, Matt asks us, Tyler, thoughts on passing on Higgins in the second if you're the second or third pick because the Chase manager will not double down on a Bengals wide receiver. I get it, but if Higgins is your guy, you might as well take him. That's kind of where I'm at. Will the Chase manager skip him? More likely than not, yes. Are they guaranteed to do it? No. People are crazy, man. You just never know. And I mean, especially the way this Bengals offense is, where we know it funnels through the pass game, they can absolutely play together. And they could absolutely be on the same team. It's not that crazy. Is it something that we'd recommend or even do ourselves? No, not necessarily. I mean, obviously, best ball and things like that, sure, you'll do it. But I don't like to bet on other people doing things like that because you also have to deal with another player in between you. So if you're the third pick and the guy takes Chase at the 1, that 102 guy is going to pick twice before you get to pick. And if T is your first wide receiver and that's the one guy you love, just go ahead and take him. Take him. And I like T. Higgins a lot. I have a ton of belief in him. I mean, looking at his box score here, you don't see a top 12 finish, but he has the ability to do it. I tend to think that the seasons where he only played 12 games here, some of that might be because, he was slightly banged up, but he also wanted that new contract. Why go out there and get hurt and risk it all? And he was trying to get the contract. He finally has it. So maybe we see him fight through some of that pain. Because when he plays, man, he's really dang good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with what Matt said. If you're at the 103, I probably wouldn't play with it too much. If you wanted to go the 102, and you've got a second or third round pick, I would probably wait. I'll play the game there. I'll play chicken.
Yeah, that's better.
With the chase on, or that's where I would do that. But I'm not going to do it at the 103 if he's my guy. So for me, I in your pick here, like where you were, Matt, at the 102, I think that's a good play you had there to pick him up in the third round versus the second and still net McBride there. It would have been really tempting for me to take McBride if he was still there.
We've got a couple more questions, so we'll hit those. Coach has a question for us that I'm going to have to answer just because I feel obligated to. So let's hit this one pretty quick. In a 12-team, 2-keeper league, half PPR coming off winning the chip. Congratulations, my friend. Nice. My keepers are Saquon and Chase. Should I run it back and go for the repeat, or should I build for the future and trade Saquon for Genty? I'll be honest, man. I treat keeper leagues almost the same as redraft leagues, and I'm trying to win it every year. You're going to have someone else on your roster that's going to be worth keeping. It's not quite like a dynasty. If you told me this was a dynasty league and you have an older team filled with vets, then let's talk about rebuilding it or finding ways to do a small rebuild midseason and then try and sneak into the playoffs and make a run. But, given this, you have the ability to get Saquon and Jamar. Or excuse me, I assume that's Chase Brown, not Jamar Chase. I would probably just keep that. I mean, if we're talking Saquon and Genty, do we think Genty scores more points than Saquon this year? I'm going to go with probably not. Is it possible? Absolutely it is. Who scores more points the following year? Could be Genty, could be Saquon. I don't know. But again, it's a keeper league. There's a lot to go through. You might draft, Woody Marks in the 12th round, and that could end up being someone that steps into a starting role and becomes the next Bucky Irving. I don't know. We don't know. There's a lot to unfold, a lot to happen. I wouldn't go ahead and set your keepers or make a trade for the future in a league that you could still win right now.
Absolutely. Obviously, it's a keeper league. He gets to keep 2 of those. Your team was good enough last year to build it. And if you're able to keep those cornerstone guys and still have a chance to win this year, I think you do that. I guess it would really depend for me on what you're getting on top of Genty if you're trading away Barkley, which I would suspect is not too much, especially here. I mean, you see them back-to-back in the first round. Yes, Saquon fell a little bit, but I really don't think somebody's going to give you, Genty and – let's even go would somebody give you Genty and Devonta Smith for Saquon? I don't even think that's getting done. You know what I mean? So for me, you're probably looking at a very minor improvement to your team if you're getting Genty. Whereas if you just take the value with Saquon, even though people want to say the Madden curse is a real thing, I'll still take the shot on Saquon Barkley. He's been good since he came in the league. So,
Yeah. Real quick from Coach, other than Cam Ward, what other rookie quarterback are you putting on your redraft bench? None. There's too many vets out there that are on waivers right now, especially just looking at this league. It's not worth taking any of them.
Yeah. The only one, and this is a caveat, so, and it's not even really that great, but the only other quarterback that I would throw on my bench, and he's not even really a rookie, is Anthony Richardson. And I know how you guys feel about him.
Tate
But
says he's the sleeper for him.
that's
and
it. That's the
I
one
wish
I
you
would
guys
put on
the
my
luck.
bench at the end. But like you said, if I had to pick one, that's who I would pick. But to me, there's just so many veterans, like Matt said, on the waiver wire this year that I think it's probably not worth it. You're better off taking a dart throw at the end of your draft to really try it.
Yeah. You know, Coach asks us, Tyler, well, really, he wants me to explain my hate for Bo Nix. I don't have hate for Bo Nix. I just think that you guys have taken it a little bit too far. And I know Pete doesn't want to hear that. Coach doesn't want to hear that because Coach was right all along. Bo Nix was his guy. He said he's going to be great. Yes, he finished as QB7, a great finish. But I think that there's a little bit of issue with that, in my opinion. I think that, we're quick to say that, well, Jaden Daniels is going to regress. He might lose Terry McLaurin, or even if he doesn't, he could regress. Why would we say that about him, but not say the same thing about Bo Nix? I mean, there's a lot to go back and think about. Well, last year he had the benefit of playing the entire season. He was never hurt. We also had some big names who didn't play the entire season, like Dak Prescott. I would expect Dak Prescott to finish ahead of Bo Nix this upcoming season. And I know that they don't want to hear that, and they disagree with it. And I get it. Again, Bo Nix is a great player. He's looked really good last year. It looks like a match made in heaven. He's going to play in this league, what should be for a long time. But he had 567 attempts. And I think that the run game there in Denver was abysmal. And is there a world where J.K. Dobbins provides some stability? He looked good last year, as much as we don't want to talk about that. R.J. Harvey comes into a role. Could he have some more ability to do that? Maybe. I just think that Bo Nix finishing as a top 10 quarterback, is it likely? I don't know. I wouldn't put the percentage that high. I mean, I'd say it's 50-50 that he's a top 10 quarterback. Would I say he's top 7? I would bet against it. I just would. No, Coach, it's not just that he's going to get hurt and he'll regress. That's not the point at all. The point is you're just saying, well, he did it once, so he's going to do it again for sure. Well, there's other names to consider. Again, I hate to go back to it, but let's talk about Justin Herbert. That team got significantly better on offense. Significantly better. And you're telling me he can't outproduce just Bo Nix? Herbert finished as QB2 overall.
You also have CJ Stroud too. I don't know if that was the one you mentioned earlier.
That's another one.
But I mean, we talk about regression. It happens for these rookie guys. Once these defenses get film
what about Mahomes?
On these rookie quarterbacks and get their tendencies, I mean, I'm not saying it's easy to do, and you can definitely level up, but it's much harder to do it the second season than it is the first season, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that there's other names out there that I'd rather have. I mean, again, Bo Nix in the 6th round for me, that is rich, man. Because you are all but locking in he repeats what he did last year. You are saying, I think he's going to do – in fact, you're saying he'll do better than he did. You're drafting him as the QB6. So you're saying he will finish better than what he did this past season. And I think that's a mistake. I think there are names where even if he finishes higher than Baker Mayfield or Jared Goff or Drake May for that matter, or Dak Prescott, you can get them cheaper in this draft. And you can net a better player to provide more fantasy production at a different position. Isn't that the same thought for Daniels? That's what I said. That's my whole point, Pete, is you guys have told me this repeatedly this offseason that Daniels could regress. That same argument that you're making applies exactly the same to Bo Nix. But you're a Denver fan, brother. You are. I know you are. And well, I am taking him in the top 4. I took him in this one, did a little bit of an experiment. I advised against it before I made the pick.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just all experimental at this point. We're not going to know what's happening until we get in the season. We got another pizza bet locked in. Guys, I wish you could see our chat that's offline. We have so many pizza bets that are thrown out there that we're like, do you want to do it? Do you want to not? Like, I've lost count how many pizzas could possibly be owed at the end of this season already. So it's going to be interesting to see. We'll see if Bo Nix is able to step back up to the plate and live up to this draft cost, or if he regresses. We'll just have to see how the season plays out. But Matt, anything else before we kind of close out the show here?
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate everyone who's tuned in. We appreciate everyone who's liked the stream. Join the draft if you haven't already. Again, go join the Discord. The link is in the chat here. There is a free level, and then we've got 2 paid tiers on a Patreon where you can get access to our rankings, get some premium content, all sorts of things out there to help you win your weeks. But we appreciate everyone who's been in here, and we will catch you next Wednesday when we're live again.